Alright guys, welcome to this analysis video for Sunday, the 6th of March 2022. As always, the contents of this video do not constitute financial nor investment advice, and the analysis presented is for educational purposes only, and aggregated finance is not liable for any losses incurred as a result of this video, and any trading that you do is done entirely at your own risk. Okay, so following on from my Friday intraday video, things are panning out. And it looks like we are getting a more bearish scenario. So we're looking at the spot chart of Bitcoin. As I said in many videos from last week, I said for higher prices, I need to see price consolidate above the 50 MA. I need it to go sideways, and then we want the 50 MA to start turning upwards. That did not happen. On Bitcoin, we closed above for 4 days, and then we closed below on Friday, and it looks like we are getting some bearish consolidation underneath the 50 MA. That's the yellow line. We're looking at the daily chart, and that 50 MA is the gradient is downwards. Now if we continue to go sideways and we can't get above the 50 MA, that portends lower prices. It's difficult to say, are we going to go straight down if that happens, or will we congregate and go sideways even for perhaps multiple weeks? But this is showing weakness in price. Just going back to the low of January, we got above, we couldn't hold there for too long, and that 50 MA never turned upwards. We came down again, we've gone back up, and we've cleared down again. So again, this is looking bearish. Let's look at the weekly chart. Wow, last week we got a topping tail. So this is looking bearish. We're going sideways for the last few weeks, and we've got, this is a weekly chart, remember, so this is a more powerful time frame than the daily chart. We've got the 20 MA, which is turning downwards, and the 50 MA, which is also turning downwards. As long as we stay underneath these moving averages, this portends downside on the cards in Bitcoin. Make no doubt about it. It's going to be very, very difficult for price to get above, especially given what we've seen on that daily chart with us struggling and not able to stay above the 50 MA. This is what technical analysis is all about. We have to be truthful. We have to see what the charts are telling us, and we have to accept what they're telling us. Now, we're never going to be right 100% of the time, but surely we want to be batting when the odds are in our favor. And by reading charts, by looking at technical analysis, we can see what is the most likely move for any underlying asset that we are looking at. Okay, let's take a look at Ethereum. We're going to jump straight to the weekly chart. Exactly the same thing. We've got like a topping tail here, 20 MA turning downwards, the 50 MA still pointing upwards, but we are struggling to get above these moving averages on the weekly chart. And the longer we stay here under these moving averages, the 50 MA will eventually start to turn downwards, and the 20 MA, this blue line, will come down to meet price, at which point it may knock it lower. So again, it's hard to say, are we going to go straight down over the next week or 10 days, or do we go sideways for a few weeks? Let me tell you something. If we do go sideways for multiple weeks, that portends much, much bigger downside. If we go down straight away, it's hard to say. Do we linger down there at the lows, or is this a longer term downtrend or not? But the bottom line is, the longer we stay here in this range and go sideways, the bigger the downside will be. Let's take a quick look at the daily chart. Very similar story to what we saw on Bitcoin. Look, we couldn't even clear above the 50 MA back in February. It was steeply pointing downwards. We tried once, we failed. We tried twice, we failed. We tried a third time, we failed. The longer we go sideways and remain below this 50 MA, it's pointing downwards steeply. It's telling us downside is on the cards. As I've mentioned in previous videos, it's important to look at the Etf charts as well. Although they're not the spot charts, but you see levels on the Etf charts that you would otherwise not see on the spot charts. So looking at this is GBTC, which is the ETF that tracks Bitcoin. This is the daily chart. Again, we are struggling to get above the 50 MA, and it is pointing downwards quite steeply. We just simply cannot get above. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. Same story here. We've got topping tails, 1, 2, and that's a sort of topping tail as well. So we've got 2 or 3 topping tails here. Again, what do? Do we go down straight away in the next week or 10 days, or are we going to continue sideways? If we continue sideways and these moving averages will come down to meet price, that would give it a kick lower. Let's look at Ethereum. Very, very similar story. This is the weekly chart. We've got 1, 2, 3 topping tails on the weekly chart. And again, the longer we go sideways, the weaker price will be going forward over the medium term. Let's take a quick look at the daily chart. Wow, we couldn't even touch the 50 MA and it is moving downwards steeply. So guys, just a heads up. The cryptos are looking, certainly Ethereum and Bitcoin are looking very, very weak at the moment. Let's take a quick look at the SPY, the S&P 500. This is the weekly chart. So we made the low on the 24th of there. We've bounced up. We've got what looks like a small bottoming tail. So we're in this range here. We have to see, can we get above? Remember, this is the weekly. This is the daily chart. So let's see what happens. Let's zoom in on the hourly chart. This is now the hourly chart, and we haven't quite closed below. The last candle of the day on Friday took us above the 50 MA, which is still pointing slightly upwards. So it will be interesting to see. Again, this is a news-driven market with what's going on in Ukraine. Now, looking at the daily chart of the SPY, again, it is interesting to know we got nowhere near the 50 MA on this bounce from last week. So let's see what happens day by day. But obviously, if the equity markets get a boost, if some favorable news comes out of Russia, and let's hope, or rather I should say, favorable news that comes out of Ukraine, of course, which hopefully will be the case, these equity markets will get a boost. And remember, a rising tide lifts all boats, so that will certainly help the cryptos. Let's take a quick look at the Nasdaq. Again, very similar story here. We can't even get anywhere near the 50 MA. The Dow, same story again. And the Russell 2000, where we have a very, very similar setup. Let's quickly look at the weekly charts. This is now the weekly chart of the Russell 2000. Again, if we go sideways, we're going to have these moving averages come down to meet price, which will kick it lower. Let me just go back. DIA, similar story. The Nasdaq, similar story. And the SPY. Alright, so let's just go back to the cryptos then. So, yep, basically what we're seeing is weakness in price, and I see downside on the cards. I want to wish everyone a pleasant weekend, or certainly what's left of it, and I'll catch you again on the charts very soon.